No. Oh, John, welcome back.
Thanks, John.
It's been a while since we've done the podcast.
I was on hiatus, John.
You were hiatus, John.
Creative differences,
There's
John.
big changes, John.
Let's be honest, John.
We weren't paying you enough.
Falling out over a bass line.
We weren't paying you enough, John.
Or a drum loop.
A drum loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't paying you enough. We weren't paying you enough, John. But big changes anyway, John. Things were.
I basically moved to another organisation in the area.
In the area, yeah.
Didn't move too far, and So we decided we had a chat about it. We're kind of relaunching it as Kings Island Community
Podcast. Podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
Covers everything down here.
Everything. It's just for the area. It's all about the collective.
And what information we can give out as well that will help other people around Limerick City and further afield as well, which is great, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not bad, you know. So it's just nice to know, John. But as yesterday down here, we had a registration drive, a voters registration drive, and you have a lot of information on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I suppose talking from a lot of beyond resident forums and groups in the area, I suppose really to have a collective voice in any area politically to get things done and moving, you really need most of your citizens of age to be registered to vote. And unfortunately, in some areas where the registration, we'll say, is lower than it should be, then that collective voice doesn't carry as much weight. And I mean, like with politicians especially, they're obviously going to drive things more if they, because they're, besides the fact they probably care about the community, but once they know that, it might get them votes and stuff, and that's how things work, let's be honest. So I suppose we're talking voter registrations, it's critically important, especially in the private areas in Ireland. So it creates positive change in the community and creates people that are, because when people can see the bigger picture with kind of what their vote means and how it carries and how it kind of transforms their community, and realising that collectively they can bring about change by voting for issues that really mean something to them. But sometimes it's hard to get that buy-in.
Yeah.
So I suppose really we just thought we'd talk about why it's important.
There is a lot of people out there, I think, as well. I think that like I'm the same myself. Sometimes you don't have know what you're entitled to, as well as voting rights and things like that, and if you want to make a change, you might, a lot of people out there might think it's, well, it's only my vote, I'm not going to change anything, but that could be the vote that changes things.
Yeah, I mean, the things like politically, like in legislation and all that kind of stuff, that gets changed by,
by people getting on their
feet, voting
feet
in the right people that will bring significant types of kind of legislation into and voting it in. But I mean, there has to be a buy-in behind it. People have to be, there has to be a drive behind it. Like for instance, like even the referendums around, like the gay marriage and stuff like that. There was a feeling across the country that the time was right, and therefore they were able to push. But you see, that's where there's a collective kind of a will or a collective voice. You see, and if you're not registered to vote, you can moan about politicians all you want and give out about the state of the country, but and they say, what are you going to do about it? And they go, well, nothing. Because a lot of people do feel that it's
not
matter what to do.
Yeah.
But that's because one person, but that's a collective no. But if you had a collective yes to say, well, actually, do you know what, all of us together might be able to change things. So it's really about getting people to understand it's very important to register to vote. There is a process in it, but once you do it, then you've local elections, you've national, and often you've referendums and stuff like that. So I mean, some of the stuff is vital because like you empower marginalised voices, and I suppose by that you mean people that don't normally have a feeling that they're heard, and that could be in an area that maybe there's low education kind of threshold, so people feel that they're not confident enough to speak up about issues because a lot of the people in power are very well educated, very well spoken, so or maybe that there's a high unemployment in the area, so they don't feel they have that, because employment gives you confidence.
It does give you confidence,
so there might be housing insecurity, which is kind of a common thread across the country now, limited access to essential services, and I suppose when residents are registered and they vote, again, they get that collective voice, so they were able to advocate for policies and resources that address those issues that are important to them. Like as of now, I suppose everyone's main priority is housing.
Housing is a big thing.
It's always there in the background because it's not great, but like I think now even like stuff like it's over €2,000 on average to rent somewhere now.
Yeah,
and it's all done supply and demand. And rent drives poverty.
Yeah.
High rent.
Yeah.
So I suppose being able to register to vote and say, no, well, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not accepting this as a norm. That's why your vote's so important. The other stuff is like you do influence policy and your resource allocation, and that's exactly it. So if you're like the policy is all right, they're saying there's a policy now of building houses and stuff, but what about the one where they allow people to come in and buy up a whole housing estate that's privately rented? So maybe then getting together with your vote to say, well, do you know what, that's not fair. We want more social housing, or we do want it to be distributed more fairly. So that'll translate into increased attention and investment. Different community programs, local amenities. Like even in the area we're here, there's no local shop. Like that. Like,
the last one, Tracy showed that closed up 2 years ago.
I mean, the nearest local shop technically is in Carberley.
That's right.
It's not even in Kingsdown. You cross the bridge.
Yeah, across the bridge. Yeah.
I mean, I know you have the Polish shop above. I think the Eastern European, but like it's specialised foods.
Yeah.
But your local bread and butter, meat shop, it's not there. You have to go over to Carberley.
And if you haven't a car or anything, it's somehow.
If you need something at 3 o'clock in the morning,
where are you going to get it?
Where are you going to get it? Not 3 o'clock in the morning, but in the evening or whatever.
In the evening, So that's a bit unfair.
But that's where your collective voice as well would say, look, we want the amenities in there. It's like increased bus services, like better childcare.
Everything kind of has a knock-on effect.
I think so. But coming together is
the thing.
If you're not registered to vote, your voice doesn't
you've no say. The thing is, you've no say. And also, what I noticed, especially in the last elections and things like, a lot of people are not voting for parties anymore. They're voting for the person that's has done something for them. That they approach, say, it could be a candidate.
Politics
it could be a candidate, say, it could be from a certain party, but they'll vote for that person because they're not a party affiliated as such, but that person is
the rise of the independents.
But even a member of a party as such,
rather than the party,
you're not voting for the party. You're actually voting for the individual, because we're lucky in Limerick that we have a good few individuals that are mixed up in parties and also independents that actually do a lot.
There are people following, like even you can see it with the mayoral race, the mayoral electorate thing. I mean, I suppose with that, really, you have to kind of think, okay, I'm a big fan of the person, but what if the party itself is the one that kind of makes
causing the trouble?
Well, no, it's just that.
It's just the thing. They can't do anything either without the party and stuff as things like that. But
people do get affiliated to parties as well. Like you remember, you'd say,
the old school, sure,
Like you say, my parents were always Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil.
We had that with our
parents. There is a party for the. But I suppose
I think that's dying out a small bit. No, I think
well, I suppose people want change now. It's not occurring quick enough.
But sometimes then that stops maybe in the people that are not registered to vote. They're saying, well, I'd like to vote for that person, but he's with this party. But at the end of the day, you vote for that person because that person will do something for you. So by all means, register to vote.
I just think you need to be kind of clever with your vote as well. But it's up to the person. That's democracy.
Yeah, that's it.
You vote
that's it.
And like there was a party I'd be interested. I'm living up rural. I'm not like I am from the town, but I live out rural, and that party didn't have a candidate in my area, so again you're kind of stuck. I suppose one of the best reasons to be able to vote as well and be registered to vote is to hold your actual councillors accountable, or TDs or whatever. When somebody has, I'm held accountable, you're held accountable. We all work for people. So all their promises and they're held accountable on their performance as well. Do you remember when you said you'd come in?
That's right. When they called your house,
and then there's always and then the next time remember that and say, well, I did give you a chance, and
you didn't. You didn't know this.
But that's registered to vote.
In this day and age, I think it's a necessity, and especially. A lot of the younger people as well that are of age are kind of they're not actually registered to vote either, which is unfortunate. You see with the turnouts of any of the elections and things like that, we're percentage wise we were down even in the last election. I think something like 60% or something like that.
That's why it's important to do kind of information things like that.
I think so. A lot of
just
the
to show
kids in school
people don't know how to do it either. So I think it's really just important to get the information out there, and just to kind of get a workshop like we had, like there was one on offer here yesterday.
That's right.
For people to understand why their vote's important. People probably just mightn't see the bigger picture and just maybe need to be reminded, or getting like the thing is, you have to get people interested in community and broader sense.
Yeah.
You know, society. Just 'cause some people just think, sure, it's not. I'm not going to make that positive change, but again, you know, if that was true, then you know, collectively, none of us
would be voting.
No.
Yeah.
I suppose another one of the big reasons as well is to address the democratic inequality. So, you know, like you were saying, non-voters are disproportionately young. So really, like, you get very civic-minded when you hit your 40s.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
Yeah, you know, maybe you get very ethical. I don't know, but like maybe the young just feel like, I suppose if you look at it now, if you get qualified at something, you have a degree or whatever, like the cost of renting a place, and their options are limited. I know loads of good young people, they're losing the creme de la creme, and they're going abroad because, you know, Canada offers them more, Australia offers them more. Why are we offering them like a €2,000 shared 3-bedroom house somewhere? You know, not including bills? Is that what, you know? Oh yeah, you like, and young people especially want that little bit of you know, the flexibility with their cash to be able to do nice things, and they don't have that because they're tied down to bills, and rent money is dead money, and they know that. And so I suppose being able to vote, then you're especially, and if you're not even like born, like not even born Irish, but if you're from an ethnic minority, so you know, you want to say something to represent you, like we have our own traveller minority here, and you want representation to make sure that your rights are heard as well. And or if you're a recently nationalised person and you might have come from not even this continent, you want somebody to listen and hear you, because you know there's
a lot of these places that these people are coming from can't, they've no entitlement to vote.
No, but I mean, it's important that they register to vote once they can as well, so that they can have representation.
They can vote here. Yeah, sure. It was only a matter of we were only talking about it yesterday. It's a lady outside. So when did women get the vote here? That's not too far back.
Yeah.
It's only back in the 70s, 60s, is it?
The women's vote?
Yeah, that they could vote in elections. Or is it back a bit further than that?
I'd say it's a lot further than that.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe I'm going off.
I think they fought for that Countess Markovic.
There you go, that's it. Yeah. Oh, there was, sorry,
the early part of that century.
That's right, yeah. But in some of the countries they hadn't.
Maybe in your house then, if you want to load to vote.
I can't vote in my house then. We all know who's the boss, John.
Yeah.
But as I say, a lack of awareness to many individuals as well is does it become a chore to some people? Say, well, I'm not going to go up there this evening, and you know, if they don't get it done during the day, and especially if the kids are home from school and things like that, they'll probably say, well.
Yeah, lack of awareness is a big thing. Just to know how to do it. Simple things that we take for granted, but you know, accessibility issues. If you're disabled, how do you get to the part? You know, how do you get to? Maybe you're not affair with the internet. Maybe you're still on the paper driven.
That's right. Yeah.
And maybe you just need a bit of guidance on that. You know,
as you said there, we just answered that, John, with the accessibility issues, like you know. Say if you're living out somewhere, say in your case out the country and stuff, and you've no way, you're dependent on people for lifts or something like that, and the time they're voting mightn't suit you and things like that. So all these things have to come into thing. Where before, years ago, if you ever remember back, they used to have cars going around actually bringing people to the voting booths.
That's right.
Yeah. That seems to be gone on.
I suppose when they're looking at, especially young people, when it's disproportionate, they're the ones.
They're the ones. Yeah.
Well, I suppose they would be okay with the internet. So I mean, if you log on to checktheregister.ie, that's an online registration portal. You know, that will guide you as well. So as I said, he done a targeted campaign here in this building, just as they offered a kind of registration workshop. So they'd be like a voter education session, and potentially further reforms like annual awareness weeks is good. I think the Women's Collective are doing this kind of advocacy boot camp, which is civic engagement type of thing. It's very good because it gets people, if people are more aware of politics. I know we go politics, or whatever they're saying again, but really the wider picture of politics and how it affects society, it's very important. Public policy, to be able to understand it. Everyone's got issues that we've had to deal with, or either speak to someone more about, to have a greater understanding understanding as to why these issues are impacted. Like you've got special needs kids on very long waiting lists now.
That's right. Yeah,
to get it to find a school, you hear all those stories and to be able to affect those policies by voting in people that would be more kind of they'd be more sensitive to those
that.
needs.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to vote. I mean, it's in the housing crisis. I mean, we're still being told that we're on track. We're not on track. We're miles off it. I know people, very good young people, that are going to have to emigrate because they just feel it's not worth it.
Either that or they're living with their parents up to into their 40s and 50s and things.
You don't want that. Like,
you need your own bit of independence.
Because I mean, it's great that, and parents are being asked to do that as well. I mean, when you're in your 20s, you want to spread your wings.
Of course. Like we all got the chance when we were younger and things like that.
But it was more accessible. No?
Well, it was more accessible. You could go on the housing list easier, things like that.
Yeah. But even privately,
there was everything. You could rent whatever you wanted. There was apartments there.
It's called a studio now, isn't it? Like I've seen there was a house once where it was in Limerick and it was something like $4,000 a month because it was 5 bedrooms or something. Like, I mean, what?
And it wasn't a particularly big house.
It was a
good house, but it wasn't
$4,000 a month.
How are you supposed to save up? Say if you're trying to get a mortgage, how are you supposed to do this, that, or the other? No. And then of course the mortgage is another.
It's hard to get on that. Because you've been asked in a mortgage, which is crazy. That prove you can pay it, but I've been paying rent. And they don't accept that as proof.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. But back to the original, by registering to vote, you have a collective voice, that you have like-minded peers that feel the same way, and you can vote in people you want, but at least you're heard, because if you want any positive change, you have to be able to vote.
I think that's the main.
It's not.
That's the main thing. I think is the voting thing. See, a lot of people now, even in say in my case now, or if I didn't really understand how the voting system goes, a lot of people are suspicious of it as well. Say, what things do I have to give out, or when do I have to, things like that. What do I have to give out, and things like that. So things like that. People are kind of suspicious. What do you have to bring a passport and things with you and things like that.
But it's the standard. Obviously, there's going to be some sort of a check done.
But it's ID. Once you have a photograph ID, I think that covers it. And if
you're going to check the register.ie, it brings you through all.
It brings you through all that.
It's not that hard, because I know I've had to register to vote recently to renew it or something. Sometimes it comes up like that. But I kind of feel myself that I have to use my vote. I just feel I'm obligated, especially working in community, and you see some of the issues around you, and I find it would be kind of hypocritical if I didn't. But it's trying to pass that out there with people, and people get fed up and they just think that it's just not going to make a difference. And that's where you gotta get people some buy-in to say, well, actually, no, together we do make a difference. It affects everyone. It's going to be very hard to get a bunch of 18-year-olds that have very limited options for their future to get them to vote.
Get interested in the country as such,
especially when they're thinking, I might get
your mind is somewhere else.
Even if they're not even studying, like what am I going to do here? I earn money, I get a decent enough job, but I still can't afford to even rent my own place.
That's the crux of things. Plus, you become a collective then as well of like-minded people that are thinking the same as you, and that's another vote into that will eventually make change.
Well, it will eventually. The only way is to vote whoever out or whoever in, and like if you the person, like we've had a continuous long line of similar. I won't say the governments have been that dissimilar, and if you're not happy with where we're at, I'm sure like there's some people that are happy. It depends where you are in life, but I mean, if you're not happy, the only way is to kind of use your vote. And try and give someone else a chance. There's no other way around it. It's a democratic process, and that's the only way that we use, especially in this side of the world.
And if you have 100% vote, you'd be surprised what can be changed. Because the last one, I think it was in the region. I think it was 60% or something people voted, but that's 40% that's gone. That could have made a change. And we're not jarring anyone for not voting and things. That people have their own reasons for not voting, as you said. People kind of think, things are not going to change.
Yeah, and to be honest, you're never too far from a voting station either. And the national school.
National schools all over. You've one over here, and you've one
past it on the way home.
One in Corby there as well.
And they opened really early. I remember the last time. was the referendum. I think I was on the way into work early. I was the first one in there. It couldn't make it. I think it's easy enough to get there.
Yeah.
Well, no, that said, I'm able-bodied and I have a car.
Yeah, and you have a car,
if you're disabled or you have issues with transport or whatever, maybe. Or,
it is a bit harder. Yeah.
But then again, maybe there's that conversation too, and making it easier for people that don't have that.
Maybe that's the way forward as well, to make it more attractive to people to come out and vote as well. It's easier to get to, as we said years ago, they used to go around the cars.
Yeah, even so maybe trying to get advantage of those community buses as well.
Buses maybe, would be an idea. Sorry, it's my phone going off there. Sorry.
I do maybe because even we have a community bus above, and that'd be something we could look at.
Without
I think if there was a bit of a voter drive, we take 17 at a time. Maybe we could do a few runs, especially if you're disabled or maybe you're elderly. Or whatever.
But the funny thing about it is, sorry for cutting across you, John. The funny thing about it, John, is the elderly. Most of the elderly do vote.
They vote. Oh, they always say the pensioners come out in force. And to be fair, we need that attitude. Even in in France when they tried to up the pension age and stuff, the older people will come out. Because I think as the years go by, you get more civic minded, more engaged. Because the other way you join groups and you be on committees as well yourself. And I'm on a few. And as you get older, you see the value in it. Or maybe when you're younger, it's a little bit boring, but naff or whatever. But as you get older, you realise, well, do you know what?
When you take more notice of what's going on, you take more notice of what's going on in the country. You take more notice of what's going on because it becomes like when you're younger. I don't think there's many people actually watch the news.
I know people that wouldn't watch.
A lot of people wouldn't, and I wouldn't blame them half time because a lot of it's bad news on it and things like that. But sometimes
it's good to be aware.
It's good to be aware of what's going on, especially in your own country and in the world as well. But especially in your own country to know what's going on and how things are changing and hopefully changing for the better.
Yeah.
But as I said, the housing crisis is a massive thing at the moment, and the health. They're the two big things.
Yeah, and the lack of services for children that went outside the doll and stuff. And
that's right.
She done it some time back as well, and they said to do something. They're still waiting. That seems to be another one that rears its ugly head. That lack of services for children. And which is there again. You need to vote, and I know there's a budget that has to go around. It has to be spread evenly, but prioritise
sometimes we need well they're the future the future of the country.
With housing, I know there's a bit of a crisis in a lot of countries, but ours seems particularly
we're very bad.
Isn't Dublin the second most expensive place to live now?
There was when you said that, I think in a show there last year about two people that I think they were surgeons or doctors and things, and they couldn't get a mortgage, and they're two high people up, and collectively they had enough to get a house in Dublin. They had to go down out the country a bit.
I remember hearing about new guards and they sleeping in their cars.
That's right. I do think everyone has a right to.
There was always an idea when you were younger that if you had a job like a guard or a nurse or something, that's it, you're set.
You were set.
No. But that's where the political will has to be swayed. And it's only done by voters. Yeah. That's the only way to do it.
That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it, John. John, we're nearly come to the end of the show anyway, but as I said, how everything going okay in the new place?
It's fine. Only up the road, still
working a lot of work here
with the Adelaide. The Adelaide have been very good and like to collaborate and stuff.
Well, that's good. That's good because
it's good.
We're all from the one area as such and things like that.
Trying to affect the same people, different strengths in different places. So sometimes you'd know of something that said, that's more right for the Adelaide, and have that conversation and sort there or whatever. And say, look, well, I think this is for you. Would you like to work together on this? You can do that part of it, and I do. And that's the only way moving forward, especially with limited resources across the community centres and stuff. So you might as well pool your skill sets and
pool together.
It's been good.
And we are lucky in Kings Island as well that there is a lot here compared to other parishes around.
There's a lot of people pulling in the right direction as well, and there's
which
a lot of good community advocates out there, and it's just about, I suppose, working together and getting cohesion and all that. And, we're working on all that.
Well, John, thanks very much for the podcast today. No, geez, fantastic, and that was a very interesting subject actually, and hopefully someone gets something out of what we waffled on for the last nearly half an hour anyway. But it was nice, John, and sure we'll be back in 2 weeks again, John.
Absolutely.
And we'll have something else to talk about.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, no problem, John, and thanks very much for calling in. So we'd like to say goodbye to all the listeners on Limerick City Community Radio, and we'd like to thank them as well. And we're wishing you good luck from St Mary's. community podcast. I have to try and left to right
Kings
there.
Island.
Kings Island podcast. There you go now. See, I got it wrong already, Jen. All the best. Have a great rest of your day, and talk to you again in 2 weeks.